All right, joining me once again here on the Matthew Filipowicz Show is my friend Alice Ollstein. Alice is a reporter for ThinkProgress, which you can find at thinkprogress.org. You can also follow her on Twitter at Alice Ollstein. Alice, thank you so much for being on the show again.
It's great to be back.
All right, so Alice, you recently spent a good deal of time down in the state of Louisiana. You actually came out with a lot of reports on environmental issues that are going on down there. One of the reports you wrote is actually called "Can Louisiana Hold Oil Companies Accountable for Its Vanishing Coastline?" Tell us a little bit about the actual situation with the coast in Louisiana and how it's actually starting to disappear.
So the Louisiana coastline is eroding at a rate that is basically not comparable to anything else that's happening in the world. And it's because of a variety of factors. Some of the erosion is natural, but it's been massively sped up by decades of oil and gas drilling since about the 1930s. And it's, just laying pipelines, dredging through the wetlands, cutting through the wetlands so that shipping boats can get through and deliver all of the equipment, drilling oil and gas rigs. You just see them everywhere dotting the coastline. And that has allowed the salt water from the ocean to come in more rapidly and eat away at the roots of the plants that hold the wetlands together, and they're just crumbling into the ocean. At the same time, as is true everywhere, the ocean is getting warmer and more acidic, and it's rising because of melting ice caps and other factors. So we have all of this going on at the same time. And for the first time ever, this state agency is trying to hold about 100 different oil and gas companies accountable for some of this damage. And they hope to use the billions of dollars they hope to win to fund these necessary measures to save what's left of the wetlands and build them back up. The agency is the Flood Authority, the Southern Louisiana Flood Authority, and the reason they're getting involved, I had never even heard of this, agency. The reason they're getting involved is because when the wetlands disappear, it makes the storm damage stronger. And so, hurricanes have been hitting the coastline forever, but they are much, much more destructive now, and that is a cost. There's a human cost, there's a financial cost, obviously, and so the state agency wants the oil and gas companies to pay because they are partially responsible.
Well, so is there, so how are they actually going about it? So it's through a state agency. Is there any, let's talk about how they're actually approaching this, and is there any kind of precedent for something like this being done before?
There is not any precedent for it being done before, and the governor of Louisiana, Bobby Jindal, is very much against this lawsuit. He's very pro-oil and gas. They've donated a lot of money to him, and he has done everything he can to kill this lawsuit. So far, the lawsuit is still going on. It could take years, though, and the state has this 50-year master plan to save the coastline that includes all of this infrastructure that they need to build, levees, but not just levees, rebuilding the wetlands, etc. But they don't have the money to pay for it. And so essentially the only hope for funding this plan is this lawsuit.
And again, it's sort of like what's sort of would be so frustrating is because obviously Louisiana has gone through a lot, be it Katrina, be it the consequences from the Gulf oil disaster that was around Louisiana. Like how can Jindal? I mean, other than just the fact that he's bought and paid for by the oil industry, realizing that his state is really in danger, and he's not like proposing other ways of getting funding to actually deal with this stuff, but he's still adamantly against what this lawsuit actually making some of these oil companies pay for what they've done. I guess other than these are a right-wing tool, just how do they even justify that? And if they're not going to support that, not having kind of an alternative plan, it's like, okay, well, we don't want this to happen via lawsuit, but here's a way we're going to maybe raise taxes, we're going to do something else to actually fund this. He doesn't seem to want to do any of that, though, right?
Well, they are planning to use whatever money they can get out of BP as that case for their oil spill goes on. And, there was just a recent development in court where BP is asking the court to limit how much they have to pay in damages and lower that amount even further than it's been lowered already. And so the state does plan to use the BP oil spill money for the wetland restoration, but that's not nearly enough.
Right. Again, I'm talking to Alice Ollstein from ThinkProgress, thinkprogress.org, on Twitter, at Alice Ollstein. You do also spend a little bit of time in this piece talking about, you call it a tale of two islands. Tell us about the islands and how they're being affected.
Well, there has been some really strong reporting on the wetland situation, most notably from ProPublica. They had some really data-heavy pieces, but we wanted to focus a lot on the individual communities and the real people on the ground that are being impacted by this and how they're dealing with it. And so we talked to 2 different Native American communities that are seeing their land disappear from underneath them. This is land where just 1 generation ago, their community could be subsistence farmers and hunters, and now that land is completely gone, and they can't practice their traditional lifestyle anymore. And we also spoke with a lot of fishing communities down there, fishers, shrimpers, oystermen, and they are suffering massively from this wetland erosion and seeing the impact on their industry, on their communities. They're getting battered by storms. Like I explained, the wetland loss makes the storms more destructive to them and all the communities down there. And so we wanted to give more of a picture on the ground, since a lot of the reporting we had already seen provided more of a picture for what's in the air.